cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death globally, claiming about 17.9 million lives every year. Yes, that is WHO, according to their statistics. Now, 17.9 million, that is about 18 million. And that is really huge. We're not talking about 1 million, we're not talking about 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, but 18 million lives lost every year from cardiovascular diseases like hypertension, stroke, heart attack. All these are cardiovascular diseases. Now, as scary as this may sound, I have good news for you. What is that? Cardiovascular diseases are preventable diseases. So no one really has to die from cardiovascular disease. Yes. And you know what? Even death from cardiovascular diseases are preventable death, which is why I have come today to share with you some tips that you can abide by, some tips that you can implement in order to care for your health. I am Dietician Michelle, a food expert. Today, on today's episode, I'm going to talk about foods you should avoid. And if you cannot avoid them, then foods you should limit their intake in order to care for your health. What are the foods? I have made it simple. 6 foods. And when I say foods, it does not just mean food 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's not that simple. There are not just 6 specific foods that when you take out from your meals, everything is well. No, I'm actually referring to 6 categories of foods. Yet, 6 categories to make my teaching easy. 6 categories of foods that when you avoid, and if you cannot avoid entirely, but you can limit their intake, you're going to be taking care of your health. What are these 6 foods I'm talking about? Number 1, refined carbohydrates, refined sugars, salt in excess, oil in excess, saturated fat, then alcohol in excess. Simple and straightforward. Number 1, refined carbohydrates, refined sugars, salt in excess, oil in excess, saturated fat, then alcohol in excess. These are the categories of foods I'm talking about. That if you cannot take out completely from your diet, yes, of course, I don't expect you to cook your food without salt. So moderation is key. So I expect that you can take out the ones you can, then limit the ones you should. That way, you're going to be caring for your heart, and there will be no reason to die from complications of heart disease. Now, let me begin with refined carbohydrates. Why should that be a problem? We're talking about the heart now. What is the relationship between refined carbohydrates and the heart? I'll tell you. When food is refined, the tendency to overeat is high. Now, when food is refined, it means that you can eat as much as 2,000, 3,000 calories of that refined food, and that is too much. So what happens when you eat food in excess, especially the refined carbohydrates we're talking about? Now, when food is consumed, when these refined foods are consumed in excess, this is what happens. The body stores the excess. And it stores it as what? Not as carbohydrates. It stores it as fat. So when refined foods are eaten in excess, the body converts and stores it as fat. Most times in the abdominal areas. And where will you find your heart? Close to the abdomen, which is why refined carbohydrates, excess refined carbohydrates has been linked with what? Increasing one's chances of having a heart condition. So as much as it lies within your power, try to avoid refined foods. What are they? Our refined bread, pastas, noodles, pastries, shawarma, burger, biscuits, cakes. Can you mention some? These are foods that are considered refined foods. If you cannot do without them, then limit intake. Don't take them every day. It's not something you should eat every time. Look for something else, something whole, healthy. So refined foods are not good for your heart. Secondly, what are the categories of foods that you should limit their intake or even avoid sugar in excess. Sugar in excess, refined sugars, white table sugars, and some people will say if it's brown sugar, then that means it's healthy. They are all the same. They all end up as glucose in the body. And you may even want to argue that honey is okay, honey is natural. Yes, I agree, honey is natural. But then I tell people, even sugar, did you fall down from the sky? No, it's from sugar cane. So, but what we are focusing on is the end product. Honey is converted to glucose in the body. Sugar, white sugar is converted to what? Glucose in the body. Brown sugar is converted to what? Glucose in the body. So if you must sweeten your food, please do that in moderation. Don't take too much because of the color or because of the claims that it is healthy. If you want to take white sugar, 3 cubes, maximum 5 cubes every day. If you want to take brown sugar, 3 cubes, maximum 5 cubes. A cube is also equivalent to a teaspoon. And if it's honey you prefer, 3 teaspoons, maximum 5 every day. And I don't want to stop at this. Why? Because some people will say, I don't take sugar. Dietician Michelle, I don't take sugar at all. I have not put sugar in my tongue for many years. But when I carry out food history, I will discover that they are taking sugar without knowing that they are taking sugar. And that is what we call hidden sugar. And you should pay attention to that. Do you eat bread? Yes, then you take sugar. Do you drink malt? Yes, you're taking sugar. Do you drink packaged juice? Yes, you're taking sugar. So all these we put into consideration. And the one that is the scariest is even our fizzy drinks, the soft drinks that in a bottle you can find as much as 10 to 12 to 15 cubes of sugar. So when I say limit, it means that you should go for smaller bottles so that when you have taken 5 cubes of sugar, you have not exceeded what your body can handle. So if you can avoid these completely, good and fine. If you cannot, limit intake. So if you have taken bread that day, then you have taken some sugar in the bread, you should not now take malt that same day or packaged juice that same day. Because if you do that, you're going to be taking too much sugar for the day. So refined sugar, table sugar, brown sugar, honey, these are taken in moderation, not in excess. So limit intake or avoid if you can. Now, number 3 category of foods that you should avoid or limit intake is salt in excess. Should you cook without salt? No, not at all. Cook your foods with salt, but there is a limit. And what is that? We recommend maximum 1 teaspoon of salt every single day, because a teaspoon of salt will give you about 2,500 milligrams of sodium every day, and that is the maximum your heart can tolerate. So after you have cooked your food, then you go and grab some snacks, salt loaded. If you calculate the sodium at the end of the day, you're going to be taking way more than your body can handle, and that can harm your heart. So salt in moderation. Limit the amount of salt you cook with. And some people say that seasoning cubes are better than salt. So I cook with just seasoning cubes and I don't add salt to my food. Wow. That is also not even better than the idea of reducing salt. I'll tell you why. When you cook with seasoning cubes, they contain sodium as well. And not just sodium, but many other preservatives inside. So am I telling you not to cook with seasoning cubes? No. Moderate your seasoning cubes. Regulate the salt intake and you strike a balance. If what you're supposed to use every day is a teaspoon of salt per person, not for the whole pot of food, you have to learn how to do the math. We call that modified cooking. So if what you're supposed to eat is a teaspoon of salt and you want to cook with seasoning cube, then that means that when you use half seasoning cube, you use half teaspoon of salt per person. So that is what we call therapeutic diet. We are not doing the calculation because at the end of the day, you're not exceeding the amount of sodium that is good for you. So if there are 5 persons in the house, I do the estimates, I do the calculations. Then I know exactly how much teaspoons of salt to cook with, how much seasoning cubes to cook with, and I am not overcooking. I am not overeating sodium or even the chemicals in the seasoning cube. So that if you can avoid seasoning cubes entirely, good and fine. If you enjoy your meals, if you're happy eating and cooking your foods with ginger, with garlic, with turmeric, then that is even perfect. But if you cannot, then use seasoning cubes in moderation. And when we talk about salt, it's not just the added salt to our food. Salt exists in many things. You have to look out for it before you will know. Number 1 is in our noodles. When you cook noodles or when you make noodles for your children, that 1 pack, 70 grams, the smallest one, contains 1,100 milligrams of sodium. So when you cook 2 of that, you have exceeded your sodium intake for the day. Now that is just the noodles. I have not even talked about the sodium in the seasoning itself. Just the noodle itself. That is how much sodium it contains. So you have to be careful when you're eating. You should read food labels. If you see any food product that contains as high as 1,000 milligrams of sodium, even 750 milligrams, it should be a red flag that the sodium content in this food is high. It's that you reduce the portion you eat or you reduce the salt you're going to consume from other foods. Have a way of striking the balance to care for your heart. Your body, your heart does not need more than 2,500 milligrams of sodium every day. Now, what is the 4th kind of food? The 4th categories of food that you should limit intake or avoid? Oil in excess. Yes. Cut down on oil intake. Don't pour oil from the gallon when you're cooking. That is too much. Do you know how much oil your body needs every day? 5 teaspoons of oil maximum. For men, it can go as high as 7 if they're active. But generally, 5 to 7 teaspoons of oil. So when you pour a lot of oil into your food, estimate the oil you have poured into that food. Or when you dish it into a plate, you'll find out that you're already consuming as much as 10 teaspoons of oil, which is too much. Do you know that a teaspoon of oil contains 45 calories? So in 10 teaspoons, that is what? 450 calories. And what we need every day is about 1,500 to 2,000 calories, and just the oil in your food has contributed 450 calories. So can you see how we overeat without knowing that we are overeating? And in the end, it affects our heart because our body is now carrying too much weight, it's carrying too much fat, it's carrying much more than it should, overburdening our organs. So oil in excess is something you should also pay attention to. Don't take more than 5. I don't encourage those who say oil-free stew, oil-free soup, oil-free that. No, we need some oil in our foods. Why? Because there are fat-soluble vitamins, and for this to be useful to you, it needs oil. So take oil, but don't drink oil. 5 to 7 teaspoons every day. Do you now understand why dietitians say don't fry your foods? Is it because frying is going to kill you? No, but by frying, it's going to absorb so much oil, too much that you cannot even burn. And apart from the fact that you have fried it, you're going to now take it with stew cooked with oil. Or even if you claim that, okay, I'm going to take it with ketchup, there's no oil in the ketchup, good and fine, but that's not going to be the only food you're going to eat for that day. You're going to eat something else cooked with oil. So when you put that all together, you discover that you're going to be exceeding 7 teaspoons of oil or even 5 teaspoons of oil, and that way you are overeating. So oil in excess, not encouraged. Frying your foods and using too much oil in your food, that is not encouraged. Then there is also another form of oil that we don't know it's oil, and it's what? Our oily soup, fatty soup like egusi. I know we enjoy egusi very well, but it's so high in fat. And some people would say, but our forefathers ate egusi, nothing happened to them. Even banga is high in fat. Our forefathers, yes, they ate egusi, they ate banga soup. But there's something our forefathers used to do. They were walking to the farm. They didn't drive to the farm. And And when it's time for leisure, they want to have fun. What did they do? They danced. In our own case, we sit down and watch television. So do you want to eat what your forefathers ate? Good and fine. Then be as active as your forefathers. Burn it, if you can. But if you cannot, the wise thing you should do will be to modify the food your forefathers ate because of our activity level. So egusi soup is high in fat. What can you do? Cook a little with plenty vegetables, or the fat, extract the oil from the egusi before you cook. Or you can even use my favorite method, which is what I call tofu egusi. Egusi made from soybean, all protein, which is good, which is healthy for the heart. So but when you cook egusi, you're still going to cook it with plenty oil, and that is too much, way too much. So but if you don't want to modify your egusi, then eat it only occasionally. Maybe on weddings or birthdays. Don't cook it every time because it's your favorite soup. It's high in fat. Banga soup is high in fat. Afan soup is actually supposed to be a vegetable soup, but I noticed that many people cook it with too much oil. So I mark it, I asterisk it, and I talk to people about it. I say, if you want to cook afan soup, then cook it with little oil. Don't pour too much oil into it. So these are soups that you should eat in moderation. There is also another one, owo. Yes, owo soup, common in the riverine areas. Yes, it's also high in fat. You should avoid this, or limit intake, or modify method of preparation. Number 5, you should limit or avoid would be saturated fats. There are different kinds of fats. We have saturated, we have unsaturated fats. So the one that is not good for the heart is called saturated fat. So why do we say it's not good? That is because in the body it cakes and it doesn't allow free flow of blood and nutrients. So we prefer the unsaturated fats, those ones that are liquid and free and good for the heart. So we don't advise saturated fat. What are the sources of these saturated fats? Organ meat, number 1. What are organ meats? Shaki, roundabout, liver, kidney, brain. These are considered organ meats. They are rich in cholesterol, rich in saturated fats, so they are not good for your heart. I don't know where the news came from that organ meats are healthy. I'll see someone who says, I don't eat red meat, but the person is buying a carton of gizzard. Organ meat. So which is better? Is it the lean beef or the organ meat? Of course the lean beef is better. So if you want to stay away from red meat, then stay away from all. Stay away from the red meat, stay away from organ meat. But if you want to eat in moderation, then go for lean meat. That is better for you. Saturated fats. And there is one more thing I want to talk about the saturated fat. When you cook your meat, allow the fats to cake, to solidify. There is a stop before you use it and cook your food. You can put it in the freezer. You can sprinkle cold water on it, and the fat solidifies. You scoop it out and discard. You're reducing the saturated fat that can be harmful to the heart. So oil in excess, not good. Saturated fat, not good for your heart. So avoid foods that have saturated fat, like the organ meats. And if you are already being managed for a cardiovascular disease, then you would also want to stay away from whole milk because they are high in saturated fats. It's better you use skimmed milk because skimmed milk, the fat has already been extracted. Yes, so these are some things that you can do. Finally, will be what? Alcohol in excess. Alcohol in excess is not good for the heart. There are limits to what your heart can handle, to what your liver can handle, to what your kidneys can handle. And these health professionals or health institutions have said that for men, it is 2 drinks per day, and for women, it is 1 drink daily. So if you want to take alcohol, you should find out what the limit is. And you know that there are drinks that have drinks that have different levels of alcohol content. So depending on that will determine how much you should drink. If it's beer containing about 7% of alcohol, 1 big bottle for men, half of the bottle for women. If it's a can, then it's 2 cans for men, 1 can for women. Now, if it's wine that you want to take, alcoholic wine is about 11% of alcohol content. Then for men, it is 2 wine cups, the slim wine cups. That is what the man can take, 2 of that. For women, it is 1. Then if it is a strong alcohol, like our whiskey, it's shots, and 2 shots for men, 1 shot for women. So these are some things that you can do in order to care for your heart. Now, I have talked about the 6 things, 6 foods, 6 categories of foods that you should avoid or limit intake in order to care for your heart. You may be wondering now, so what are the foods we should eat? What should we not eat? I'm going to tell you, but that will be in the next episode. I'll talk about heart healthy diet. So, but if you have questions on what I have talked about now, I'd like you to drop them in the comment section and I will respond. I just talked about 6 things, 6 foods that you should avoid or limit their intake in order to care for your heart. Summary: refined carbohydrates, sugar in excess, salt in excess, oil in excess, saturated fats, and finally alcohol in excess. I hope you're going to remember. I know you will, because you want to care for your heart. These statistics does not include you and me, because we care for our hearts. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.